Well, Georgia is quickly put in a pass by Marcus Freeman today, and everything is pointing to Penn State. I'm Tim Priester, Tim O'Malley, and John Brice, and this is Instant Analysis brought to you by RVMH Hall of Fame in Elkhart. Quick recap of Georgia, although I know, Tim O'Malley, you want to say some things about that matchup, but Marcus Freeman and the team has turned it quickly to Penn State. Penn State talked about the offense, and this is a very complete football team. You know, we talked about what Notre could do against Georgia's run game. They aren't very good against the run. Penn State's good in pretty much everything that they do.
Not good at running the football. Yeah, Penn State's good at running the football. I thought it was important where Marcus pointed out, because a lot of people have asked about the offensive approach. On a day where the defense was obviously an A+, the special teams an A+, the offense played complementary football to manage to get. They had one half of an offense playing complementary football, the running game, and Marcus Freeman said, we had to run the ball against what was easily the best defense we're going to face. We knew we had to run the ball and protect the ball, and stopping the run was the key. He said, passing yards will not beat us this game. It's such an interesting dynamic to me, because Al Golden thought during the early parts of the year when you're playing worse teams, rushing yards will not beat us, but they knew the difference. I thought they executed it splendidly. Now they need more from the passing game going forward, obviously, but I think at some point they realized, holy cow, batten down the hatches, protect this football, and find a way to run the football.
And I think when all is said and done, you know, you feel he feels good about Notre Dame's pass defense.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, Georgia had some success, but
they have other players. They have players.
They have players, and they made some plays that maybe we didn't expect. But, look, the Notre Dame defense came through again. They had to stop the run. They shut it down. JB, now it's on to Penn State. Stopping that running game is going to be difficult, and running against that defense is going to be difficult as well.
Yeah, huge challenge. Another game that will be decided largely in the trenches and from turnover margin, in my opinion. And that Penn State defense, so ferocious. Abdul Carter now being touted as maybe the number 2 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. He's really special. He was on a number of my awards ballots and my All-American ballots as well. I mean, just a really unique individual. He is a game wrecker. He is as good or better than any of those 3 prospects that we saw on the field for Georgia. In the Sugar Bowl, offensively, we know about Nick Singleton because Notre Dame recruited him pursued him so doggedly, and were a finalist for him until he elected to go with the Nittany Lions. Drew Aller reminds me a little bit of Ian Book. He makes a lot of really good decisions. He can do a little bit with his legs, not as much as Ian Book.
He did a little against Ohio. He did a little against Ohio State in that game where he was trying to give them. He can give you just enough.
Yeah, he can. He can give you just enough. But also, he reminds me of Book in that he doesn't too often push it downfield and take very many risks, but he makes a lot of really good decisions. But as I've noted before, in that CFP opener against SMU, he was 13 for 22 for like a $127, 0 passing touchdowns. Now he's much better against Boise. But again, he has not been a world beater downfield. They do have a couple of decent weapons, maybe a little bit better overall in the throw game than what I would say the Georgia offense was, but not an offensive juggernaut and a defense that absolutely concerns you, and I expect this to be another rock fight.
Tim, what are your thoughts on Penn State? Now, we're just getting started. I haven't looked at any real film of them, but statistically, they are a very complete football team.
But what I think, throwing that, even tossing that aside, Warren at tight end is a unique, special athlete. He's not only a tight end, as you mentioned. He runs the ball every game. They ran a fake punt with Warren, and he was unstoppable in the fake punt. He is a fantastic college football player. All-around fantastic player. One of the first questions I saw on our board was, who covers him? It's not one guy. There's got to be something going on with Warren. He could be the best football player on the field. College football player on the field. He and Xavier Watts are going to be in that situation when those two match up as the best players on the field.
Impacts a game like Brock Bowers?
Yes, in a different way. But I mean, Bowers was a dominant force with the ball in the air. Who's covering Brock Bowers? Nobody is the answer. It's a little different. Warren just is going to be heavily involved. How many catches did you say he had against USC?
He had 17.
17 or 18,
Just listen to that. Right?
And I don't know if they call it the Wild Lion instead of the Wildcat, but they run him out there at quarterback at times as well. Very dynamic in the different ways that they get him the ball. Kirk Ciaroca, the offensive coordinator, has had a dramatic impact. I forget the exact stat, but in the first month of the season, if I'm not mistaken, Penn State already had more explosive offensive plays than it did all of last season. And that's been the impact of new offensive coordinator Kirk Ciaroca. Defensively, Tom Allen, the former Indiana head coach, has had a profound impact on that Nittany Lions defense.
You know, Marcus Freeman was asked about the captains, what makes them special, and Marcus apparently was trying to give them, a spiel about staying focused and what have you. And it's like, Coach, we've been listening to you all year. We're not going to back out of it now. We're locked in with you.
Freeman basically said before I could tell them we had to stay focused. He's like, Coach, we got to start focusing on the next game. They were on the coaches had turned. I hope the players didn't do this on the plane. The coaches had turned to Penn State preparation on the plane. I'm hoping the players did that right when they woke up and enjoyed the moment a little bit, because that was pretty special. But as Freeman said, I thought the most important thing he noted was, this will be the last great moment we have as a team if we don't prepare properly for the next one. And he's right. That the relief of winning that game is much greater than Penn State could have had beating Boise State, and the euphoria for 24 hours.
Yeah, sorry, perhaps not a great moment per se, but overall very encouraging news. TP, why don't you update us on the injury situation?
Yeah, we were going to start with that. I got away from that. Cooper Flanagan is out with a foot or an ankle. Is it foot? Ankle, both? Foot, and he will be out for the rest of the playoffs. Marcus Freeman mentioned no one else. The reality, of course, however, is that it's a situation with Howard Cross III and Jeremiah Love. I would imagine under normal circumstances they would be listed as questionable, but they're not listed right now. They're I'm sure, going to do absolutely everything they possibly can to be a factor in this
Probably
football
because it's
game.
not questionable if they're going to try to play or not. They're definitely going to try, and then they'll find out.
Yeah, both those guys indicated in the locker room post game that they were optimistic they'd be good to go against Penn State. And one quick thing, when people were talking about would the game be moved back a day or not, I do think it's important to note, it's unfortunate that Penn State gets 9 days and Notre Dame gets a standard 7-day game week, but Penn State has played 15 games, Notre Dame has played 14 games.
That should be beneficial.
And it's 7, not 6. That's a pretty big deal. Freeman's like, hey, he said physically we're fine. Mentally we got to reset, but mentally we have 7 games.
Right. We were saying that when we were in New Orleans, that hey, this ultimately is going to be like the difference is that Penn State has a 2-game advantage. I asked about Aeneas Williams, and he will, if Love is compromised, Aeneas Williams will have to play a bigger role. He's capable. Marcus Freeman said that he expedited the process, that is, Aeneas Williams did, just by dialing in and listening to what everybody said.
I'd like to point out that Marcus Freeman and I discovered Aeneas Williams apparently at the same camp right when they offered him at 22 or July.
I also asked about Junior
Was that
Tui.
one of your flag football camps?
Yes, it should have been.
I also asked about Junior Tui Alamaka, and Freeman said that he's an example for other players. He was a third-team Viper. He could have thought about transferring, entering the portal. He stayed true to the team and did everything that he could to prepare for the moment that he's in. Now he's playing like a man possessed, shooting off the edge of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, and he's the guy that recovered the fumble that R.J. Oben forced. He had 4.5 tackles, I think, in the game against Georgia. 1.5 of those TFLs.
They were all at the line of scrimmage too. There was none of that downfield stuff. He's
played so assignment sound. I think that's the big thing. He's not only maximizing his athletic ability, his football IQ has quite simply never been higher.
Yeah, Al Golden has reinforced that idea over and over again. Last thing we'll talk about, middle eight, which has been a popular topic among us and JB in particular. Notre Dame took it to a different level, 17 points in a 54-second span within it was the middle one. It was the magic minute of the victory over Georgia.
Yeah, the heck with the middle eight. I'm going to start calling it the Elite Eight as we refer to Notre Dame football. Most of you know the stats. We had them over the course of the season. After the Army game, Notre Dame had outscored its opposition 111-0 through the first 11 games, added a 14-7 edge against USC that made it 125-7 after the regular season. It's now 145-10 through 14 games of this season. Notre Dame 3-3 stalemate with Indiana in the middle eight, but then a 17-0 advantage. Quite simply, they are not only dominating on the field, they are demoralizing their opponents on the field going into and out of the locker room.
Tim, final thought?
That was the game against Georgia. I wrote about it. We've talked about it. It was a 6-3 game, a 3-3 game before the field goal. That was the football game. And then you talk about stalemating once with Indiana. They also stalemated with Georgia when they needed to. After Georgia scored a touchdown, it was a stalemate all the way through the end of that quarter, and you reset in the fourth quarter, and special teams and Marcus Freeman's guts took over.
That's it for today's Instant Analysis. Check us out for a special Sunday edition of Irish Illustrated Insider.